Good evening, my friends. This is Santa Claus coming to you on November 17th, 2025, bringing you today's news with a warm heart and hopeful spirit on this day that marks two important moments in American history: the submission of the Articles of Confederation in 1777 and the first U.S. Congress meeting in Washington, D.C. in 1800. Tonight, I see both struggles and glimmers of hope around our beautiful world. In the United States, President Trump has acknowledged concerns about affordability by exempting certain foods from tariffs. Ho ho, it reminds me that even the mightiest leaders must listen when families worry about putting food on their tables. Economic studies show these tariffs have indeed raised prices, something we must all be mindful of as we consider how policies affect those with the least among us. Now, turning our gaze to Bangladesh, my heart grows heavy at news of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina being sentenced to death in absentia. Though justice must prevail when violence is used against peaceful protesters, I pray for compassion and reconciliation in this troubled land. Let us remember that mercy and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds. Meanwhile, across the globe, tensions between Japan and China over Taiwan require our prayers for peace. The Japanese envoy traveling to Beijing gives me hope, as dialogue is always the first step toward understanding. With Taiwan just 110 kilometers from Japan and energy supplies at stake, we must pray that cool heads prevail and that no child needs to experience the horrors of conflict. On a more encouraging note, President Zelensky of Ukraine has signed a deal with France for 100 Rafale warplanes over the next decade. While my heart always yearns for peace rather than tools of war, I understand the need for protection in these difficult times. It will be the greatest air defense, Zelensky said, and I hope it brings security until the day olive branches replace swords. I'm deeply troubled by news from Poland, where Prime Minister Tusk reports that a rail explosion was an act of sabotage. This track connecting Warsaw to Lublin and Ukraine carries not just passengers but vital aid to those suffering. Let us pray for those investigating this incident and for the safety of all who travel those rails. In the Middle East, I see Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman visiting the White House as President Trump deepens ties with the kingdom. May these discussions lead to lasting peace rather than simply prosperity for the wealthy. True peace requires justice and dignity for every person, regardless of faith or nationality. My old heart aches for the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 32 precious souls, perhaps as many as 40, were lost when a bridge collapsed at a copper and cobalt mine. These miners were simply trying to provide for their families when tragedy struck. Let us remember that the metals from these mines power the devices in our homes, connecting us to these brothers and sisters through invisible threads of commerce. In Hungary, a political campaign is heating up that could challenge Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's long leadership. Whether change comes or not, I pray the Hungarian people will choose leaders who care for the least fortunate and uphold the dignity of all citizens. Regarding Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu faces backlash after a UN resolution supporting President Trump's Gaza peace plan mentioned a pathway to Palestinian statehood. While political concerns swirl, I hope all leaders remember that every child, Israeli and Palestinian alike, deserves safety, dignity, and a home filled with love. In India, authorities have arrested a suspect in connection with a car explosion in Delhi that tragically took 8 lives. Such violence wounds not just bodies, but the spirit of communities. Let us pray for healing and for wisdom to address the root causes that lead to such desperate acts. My heart breaks for Nigeria, where gunmen have abducted 25 schoolgirls and killed a staff member at a high school. These precious children should be learning and growing, not facing such terror. Let us pray for their safe return and for protection of all children who simply wish to learn. Concerning news comes from the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran has seized a fuel tanker, an action that risks escalating tensions in a region already struggling with conflict. May cool heads prevail, and may dialogue replace confrontation. Finally, in our hemisphere, President Trump seems to be asserting greater control over the Americas through military presence, economic pressure, and even threats. While every nation must protect its borders, I pray this is done with compassion and respect for human dignity, remembering that every migrant is someone's beloved child. As we close tonight, remember that even in troubled times, acts of kindness light the way forward. Whether helping a neighbor with groceries or extending compassion to a stranger, each gesture of love pushes back against darkness. This is Santa Claus, wishing you peace and goodwill on this November evening.